Hi, this is Steve Slevinski, and I'm going to be presenting SignWriting in Unicode and Rich Text Considerations. This is presentation 61 of the SignWriting Symposium 2016. Unicode. According to Wikipedia, Unicode is a computing industry standard for the consistent encoding, representation, and handling of text expressed in most of the world's writing systems. Normal people don't need to know about Unicode. People that use HTML or do web development, they need to know this first statement, which is meta charset UTF-8. Then that's really all there is to know about Unicode when you're dealing with SignWriting. SignWriting, we use ASCII, and Unicode is ASCII plus extra characters. We can talk about the 8 bits or the 16 bits or the 32-bit characters. It gets kind of complicated and detailed. I'd like to talk about the big umbrella of the Center for Sutton Movement Writing. All languages, all sign languages are supported right now. We have various handwriting styles used around the world. We have 4.5 years of stable and free standards. We have many implementations from separate groups, some we don't even know about, and we are using the Formal SignWriting Standard. Formal SignWriting, it's a formal language and a script encoding. For every sign that we have, we write that as a word. It's a word of ASCII characters, and that is how we save it in the database and transfer it around through the different web pages. Unicode, though, dealing with SignWriting, it really does have a real-world impact. For the American Sign Language Wikipedia, for the Tunisian Wikipedia, Sign Language Wikipedia, we are all using formal SignWriting when we write our signs, and that is how that information is kept in the database. Formal SignWriting, it's ASCII, character for character that equals UTF-8, and that's what web pages are delivered in. There are Unicode considerations that people are interested in, because if you're going to have a script that's used around the world, it should be international and it should be in Unicode. Unicode means one code or one set of code. That means every character has unique code that goes along with it, and that way the various writing systems don't step over each other. If you want to know more about the ASL Wikipedia or any of the Wikipedia projects, we have a presentation 64 tomorrow. Also later in this year, October, we hope to get a group of people that use SignWriting together for the San Diego Wiki Conference USA, and more information will be coming out about that. SignWriting in Unicode next. Last year, I was able to go to the UTC, which stands for Unicode Technical Committee. I went to the meeting 144, and I discussed the issues that I had with SignWriting as they put it in Unicode version 8. After that Unicode 144 last year, I put together a document, and it was SignWriting designed with 3 examples and their representations. Deborah Anderson and Ken Whistler helped me format this document. The link is available there. This year, I get to go back to UTC, the Unicode Technical Committee meeting this year, number 148. It's going to be in Washington State. I just bought my plane tickets. It's coming up really soon. When I go there, I hope to discuss the accomplishments, because I know that there are different people working with Microsoft, working with the Android operating system, that are interested in SignWriting, and they would like to get it to work. So I'm hoping that we can discuss our accomplishments. I have a bunch of stuff to show I'm excited about. Share insights. After we prepared this document, they discussed it at UTC 145, which I did not attend. And at that time, they decided to take no action. So I'm hoping when I go, we can share some insights and discuss it. And also hopefully create some action items so that we can get SignWriting in Unicode moving forward. In that design document, I put 3 examples together. And at the bottom, you can see our formal SignWriting word, which is our string of ASCII characters. Up there you can also see the plain 15 private use area characters and the plain 16 private use area characters. There are other examples that get more complicated, a complicated facial expression and how we would write that with formal SignWriting, and how that would look with characters on plain 15 or plain 16 of the Unicode. Finally, another longer example, more detailed, and this example is actually able to be sorted, where the other two examples were not because they did not have that optional temporal prefix of formal SignWriting. All right, so we have, when I go to this meeting, two areas to discuss. There is the plain 15 character encoding model, and that plain 15 uses 1,179 characters. And that script encoding model on plain 15 is equivalent to our formal SignWriting. There is an easy transformation from formal SignWriting to plain 15, and another easy transformation back from plain 15 to formal SignWriting in ASCII. Before, I was very excited about this plain 15 encoding, and we even, thanks to Eduardo Trapini, he was able to create a true type font that was actually able to use this script encoding model in plain 15, and he was able to get the graphite rendering engine able to create the two-dimensional layout that we use in SignWriting, and he was using Cartesian coordinates for that layout. There were some issues with the symbol clarity and the exact alignment when you have more than one sign, and also graphite. It's only available in Firefox right now. So the plain 15 model, it seemed to have some real promise, and we might come back to it. It might have some real promise later on, but for right now, the plain 15 does not really give us what we need. It creates a lot of extra overhead. The data that we have is 2 to 6 times as large, and in certain situations it takes 4 times as long to process as the formal SignWriting. More difficult to use, especially when you're using JavaScript, which uses UTF-16, which is a whole nother ball of wax. The second discussion point is the symbol encoding model that is on plain 16. And for this model, every symbol of the ISWA 2010, the International SignWriting Alphabet 2010, has its own unique code point. And we have 37,811 different symbols. It is a 16-bit font, all created by Valerie, encoded by me, and Adam Frost did some amazing SVG refinement work. Couldn't have done that without him. Right now, all of those characters are on plain 16. The characters are in the private use area. We can keep it there. I would like to move it over to plain 4, because then we have fonts for SignWriting that don't use private use area characters. That was one complaint, actually, from the Russian Sign Language Wikipedia group that wants to get started. They weren't very happy about having to use a true type font that was based on private use area characters. So for both these designs, the plain 15 and the plain 15 and plain 16, both are productive and useful, but plain 16 is the one that we're actually using now. Later this year, after I get back from the UTC meeting, I'm going to dive back into font development. Right now, we are using the SignWriting 2010 fonts, and there are a few issues with that. It's based on private use area characters. It also uses a lot of ligatures. Ligatures basically means if you have more than one character, you have a string of characters, you kind of translate that into that plain 16 private use area character. It's kind of an indirection. And I put over 100,000 ligature statements in the SignWriting 2010 fonts, and it's a lot of bloat that's not really needed. So with the new design using the plain 4 characters for SignWriting, we also get a lot of extra benefits where even context menus or things with the operating themselves, they treat plain 4 characters differently than they would treat plain 16 characters. So it gets us a lot better integration. Yeah, it going to be the new font called Sutton SignWriting, the Sutton SignWriting font. It's a 16-bit font. The glyphs were all created by Valerie Sutton. It breaks down into 652 different palettes or grids of 6 by 16, and that's how we organize all of our tens of thousands of symbols. You can see a dynamic page. It's just a single page. It's 114 kilobytes, and you can view all of the characters and all of the symbols that we have in our fonts. And as I'm cleaning up the Sutton SignWriting fonts, there's a couple issues with a couple symbols being stretched in an improper way. And there's also how we write on the baseline, which I will be addressing when I do this font development. This is the easiest way that I know of for Unicode and SignWriting to work together right now, where we work together on the symbol level. The two-dimensional layout we are not handling with the Unicode technology. For that, we're using the SVG for that two-dimensional arrangement. Yeah, formal SignWriting and fonts. If you want to see how we render FSW with style and zooming and reflow, you can view the SignWriting character viewer. You can look at version 1, which we have right now, which is using that plain 16 for the SignWriting 2010 fonts. It also includes those ligatures I was talking about for the Unicode 8 specification, mostly. There is the symbol keys themselves, which can be used as ligatures, and there's also the plain 15 that can be used as ligatures. Well, for version 2, which I'll be working on later this year, it's going to be the Sutton SignWriting fonts. I'm proposing it for Unicode 10. It's going to be on plain 4 and pretty much take up all of plain 4. So every symbol of the ISWA 2010 has a unique code point, and that's really important, and it will really help streamline the files. Rendering formal SignWriting, it's really getting easier and quicker and more powerful. At the bottom of this slide, you see there is a CodePen example, and that uses 2 kilobytes each of HTML, of cascading style sheets, and JavaScript. And you can get a whole section of SignWriting to flow properly and be able to be read and pretty much cross-platform. The great thing about formal SignWriting is you can copy and paste individual signs. You can just double-click on a sign. Sometimes it's a triple-click, depending on the operating system in the browser. But when you do this alternate click, you can actually copy that formal SignWriting and paste it into another application. Rather than just copying a single sign, you can also copy multiple signs. I've been playing around, and you can copy hundreds, even thousands of signs from one web page and use them in another web page. It's really great. When you copy whole sections, you possibly get these extra plain 4, plain 16 characters, and those won't interfere with the pasting, but it may actually give you some visual feedback of seeing the symbols that are contained in that two-dimensional arrangement. This area is something I'll be working on later this year, and it should be really exciting. When we display our formal SignWriting, or when we display SignWriting in an HTML page, every sign gets transformed into an SVG image, and that SVG image gets put into a div, if you will, and that div has right padding, left paddings, width, height, and we have our vertical writing mode. And we get, as you can see on the left of this slide, we get some really pretty layout for our SignWriting. And you can see that we have our formal SignWriting right here at the start of the one specific SVG. And if you follow some of those arrows, you can see that our coordinates in our formal SignWriting are actually directly used in our for the coordinates of the SVG image. Now, if we look down here, we see Unicode plain 4 or plain 16. This is really what we're going to be talking about at the UTC meeting, because right now I'm using plain 16 characters right here, and I'd rather use plain 4 characters. If I was using plain 4 characters, rather than seeing the square box, we would actually see the SignWriting symbol itself. And like I said, that gives some really exciting possibilities. Plain text. Well, according to the Unicode Standard, Chapter 2, plain text must contain enough information to permit the text to be rendered legibly and nothing more. So for our formal sign writing, it is plain text. When we have our formal sign writing, we need to know how those symbols are positioned in 2 dimensions. And without that 2-dimensional information, you do not have sign writing, and you cannot read what was written. And that would not be plain text without that coordinate and that 2-dimensional layout. Unicode Standard also says that plain text is a pure sequence of character codes. And again, that's what formal sign writing is. We have a sign written as a word, which is a string of characters, or a sequence of character codes. Sign writing, or formal sign writing, is plain text. There is something also called rich text. Unicode Standard Chapter 2 again. Rich text is any text representation consisting of plain text plus added information such as language identifier, font size, color, hyperlinks, and so on. They say that rich text carries complex formatting information as well as text content. Now, with that complex formatting information, that is not what we were dealing with when we were talking about formal sign writing in our 2-dimensional placement, because it is complex, it is formatting, but it's not rich text because that text will not be legible without our 2-dimensional placement. Our 2-dimensional text is plain text. When we're talking about rich text, we're talking about different colors and different sizes for sign writing specifically. And also, given that rich text equals plain text plus added information, the extra information in rich text can always be stripped away to reveal the pure text underneath. And that is what we have with sign writing and formal sign writing being the plain text. There's something called the styling string in sign writing. The styling string always appears after a formal sign writing string, and it gives the display information about how it should be displayed. You can get some really powerful and some really interesting effects with very little detail. Here we have 2 possibilities for how we can make rich text out of our signs. We can either color the whole sign, which is its styling string with the -d_blue_, or we can set the color on specific symbols such as -d03_blue_. And that simply means for the detail of symbol 2, color it blue. There is a lot of colors. For the formal sign writing and the styling strings, you can actually use CSS color names, such as red, blue, green. The CSS color names, there are a lot of them. Light gray, light blue, mauve might even be in there. Or if you're more used to web development, you may be used to hex values, which are either 3 or 6 characters long, and that's the red, green, blue values for whatever color you're talking about, so you can get really specific. With our sign writing styling string, we have a lot of possibilities that we can add to that sign. We can colorize it, and with that, for the ISWA 2010, there are 7 categories, and every category has its own unique color. So the hands are all one color, the movements and actions are another color, arms and arms and torso, heads, all have a specific color that's specific for the ISWA 2010. We can add padding. Right now, when you create a sign, it has a tight bounding box. And that means for the top, left, right, and bottom, there is the image of the sign goes all the way up to the edge of that SVG. When we add padding, we actually put some space up, down, left, right around that sign. We can set the background color of that sign, and we can use the CSS color name or those hex values. We have the detail colors for the signs. Sorry, yeah, this is all sign for the signs, and we can set the line color or the fill color. And there's also a zoom level that we can set for the entire sign, because normally they start at 1, and we can make them up to 2, 3, or even extensible, which I'll talk about in a second. And then there's 2 options for the specific symbols. You can set their colors, or you can set their size. So the first right here is -C. That is a styling string that says colorize the sign. And as you can see, here's the 30 categories of the ISWA 2010, and they all have their own unique color. For padding, the styling string is P10. It always has 2 numbers after the P. So if you only wanted a padding of 1, you would actually do P01. So you can go from 01 all the way up to 99, and that will put a padding around the string. -G underscore light blue underscore, that means a background of light blue. And normally signs default with a transparent background, but in this case, we actually get we set the background color. I was talking about the detail of the line for the symbol itself. We have -D red, and that says for the detail of the symbols, set the line to be equal to red. There's also that fill in the symbols, which you may have noticed, so you can actually put a comma between color names. So this is detail with our line red and our fill of yellow. Here's that zoom. All the signs default with a zoom level of 1. But here is the detail level of 6.4. You can use any integer or decimal value. All right, and also the order of the styling options is important, and here are 2 more complex styling strings. If we look at this first one, we see a padding of 10, a background of light blue, a detail for the symbols of a line red, a background of yellow, and we zoomed it to 4. Here's another one where we colorized it. We gave it a padding of 10, background of light blue, and we did the zoom 4 again. It is also possible to style individual symbols, and when you have the detail for a symbol, you always need to identify the number. So this is the detail, again, 2 digits, 01 to 99. So detail for symbol 1, we're going to make it red with a yellow fill. Or we're going to have detail for symbol 2, a line red, and the fill of transparent. So you can see it was white, now it's transparent. Then we can also have a spelling string for detail of symbol 3. We're just going to make it red. There is also, you can set the zoom level of specific symbols. Here we're going to zoom symbol 1 to size 2. Here we're going to zoom symbol 2 to size 2. But this also includes an offset coordinate, because 500 by 500 is the center of all of our sign boxes. And this says move it to the left 20 and move it up 10. So when we made the symbol big, it actually overlaps some of the symbols, so we manually adjust it away. And here we zoom symbol 3 to twice the size, and again we move it over 10 so that it doesn't, so it balances well. You can have all kind of complex formatting, and if you see we have from the P all the way up to the Z2, that is for the entire sign. We have another dash, and then we have the detail for symbol 1, red, detail symbol 2, blue, symbol 6 and symbol 7, and then we zoom symbol 5 to twice the normal size. And that is Unicode, and that is rich text. I'd like to show some specific examples, but Val, would you like to say something?
Oh, no, I'm just so happy about this beautiful work. I'm not sure if everybody even grasps the amount of technical work that Steve has done. But for those who are software developers, of course you grasp that. But for our users, and I'm one of them, a layperson user, we just change color and do all kinds of cool things with SignPuddle Online and other places. Steve's FSW is used, for example, even in Wikipedia now. I think we can show different colors, can't we? We can highlight, I think, can't we? Or select.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, and all these colors and all these abilities to be able to copy and paste. It sounds like such a basic thing. It's not. It's a hard thing to program. And for SignWriting with our unique symbols, this was a major development to be able to do this with with FSW and also now Unicode. So we're very lucky that Steve has taken the time to do this work. So thank you, Steve. I'm excited about your upcoming meeting with the Unicode Committee. I hope it goes well. And no matter what, we're grateful for all that we have. So yes, please go ahead and show us something more. You have something more to show us?
Right, yeah. Well, SignWriting itself is over 40 years old, and I've been working with SignWriting for over a decade. My goodness. And
that's right.
It's amazing things that we can take for granted now, where we can do things now that we could only dream about before. Or before we could do them, but it was really complicated and really involved. And even though now it may seem complicated and involved, this is so much easier than it was when I was first messing around with the character encoding.
Yes, well, you know, way back, Richard Gleaves developed something just for the desktop, you know, for computers without any internet. And now you came in 2004 or so, which is about, you know, at least 12 years ago. It was a long time ago, in other words. And at that time, the internet was alive and fresh and new, wasn't it? And there weren't that many unusual writing systems like ours being used on the internet. I remember there was a time when it was hard to even expect to see something like Chinese seen on the internet. But then over time, Unicode and other methods were used to get written Chinese to be a standard on the internet. Isn't that true? But there must have been a great deal of work to make that happen. And so it's not surprising that it's taken you so many years, but the fact that you're sort of a one-person show and have been able to do this on your own, and then now in Unicode, we're grateful to the committee, but there's still more issues to face with Unicode to make it more applicable to today's world. The combination of your FSW that is used with or without Unicode, and then the Unicode, both things are fabulous, so I'm hoping they'll blend more and more. So come on, tell me something more. You were going to show us something.
Well, right here, this is the SignPuddle.com. It's got some great information about all the programs I have available. You can go to, has a link to SignPuddle.org, which is our community of writers. You can go to SignPuddle.net, which is the developer API. The SignPuddle.net is actually running the SignWriting server, and that is replacing the SignWriting icon server, or SWIS. So SWIS is the old SignWriting server, and now we have the new SignWriting server available on SignPuddle.net. I would like to show something on SignPuddle.net, so let me go there. It really offers developers. Can't click on that. It really offers developers some great tools. I'm going to go right to the SVG section. There we go. So you go to SignPuddle.net. You get let's look at the guide, and we're going to look at the guide for the SVG. Now for SVG, there's actually only 2 calls you can make for SVG, and this will give you server-side SVGs, where you can use the SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library. On the client side, you can also use a SignWriting server from SignPuddle.net on the server side. So we can get SVG with pure SVG, which you cannot do on the desktop by itself, or you can get an SVG with the font inside, which you actually can generate on the server, or you can generate on the client, and that will actually use that SignWriting 2010 fonts. So let me grab a sign first. I didn't do that. How about this sign right here? Double click, right click, and then I will copy it. And then I will just say SignPuddle.net/SVG/ and I'll paste that string in there, that formal SignWriting string, and we'll get our image for that sign. Now, if we wanted to do that coloring or that styling string, we actually put that on the end. And one of my favorite coloring or styling strings is -C, and we'll do a Z, which is zoom level, but we're going to use an X. And zoom level of X, which isn't an integer or decimal, means extensible, and that means make it as big as possible. And when we push enter, rather than being small, we get it nice and big. And that's a way just SignPuddle.net/svg/formal SignWriting string, followed by our styling string. If you know your styling string, you can make it more complicated. So I'm going to do the padding of 10, and I'll do a background color of, I really do like that light blue.
That's amazing. You can put in this code up in the URL there, and presto, you change the way the SignWriting looks. That's marvelous. That's wonderful.
Right. And again, here, if you didn't want the detail, rather than having default to a white fill, we can say detail. It's actually going to ignore this first one because we have it colorized, so I'm saying have a black line, but the colorizing overrides that. But we can then change the light blue for the fill.
And it's in English. I mean, it's in a language you can understand, too. You're not giving us unusual numbers that we have to memorize. You can actually put in black. What did you do? You put in black line or something? I didn't see that quite. But
yeah, I said have a black line and a light blue fill.
Oh, there it is. And a light blue fill, right.
It doesn't actually have the black line, and that's because we started off with that colorize. So if I take off that colorize, I can just delete that character. And then rather than black, let's say, let's do red.
Okay. So you're going to type, you're going to get rid, so you're just typing words at the end of an ASCII string. That's really fascinating, Steve. You're brilliant. You really are. Wow, light blue, D, red.
That's what I missed. I spelled red wrong.
Well, you got to know. Yeah, there we go. We got red when it was spelled right. There we go. Very good. Wonderful.
Now let's one last thing. I want to try to show here the difference between an SVG with the font and an SVG without the font. Now this right here is just SignPuddle.net/SVG/ our formal SignWriting string and our styling string. If we view the source for that, view page source. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger. This is what that sign will look like. It starts out with our text where we actually put the formal SignWriting string, and that's how we are able to copy and paste. If you look there, you can see it says font size 0 because we don't want it to be visible. We want this to be invisible and yet able to be copied. And then inside that, we have our rectangle, which is actually that background blue fill. So we're actually putting a rectangle of light blue in the back of our SVG. And then we have each symbol put at specific coordinates. Here's our X, Y coordinate for each of these symbols. The interesting thing here is since it's a standalone SVG from the server, it's not using that Unicode characters in here, not using plain 16. It's just using G stands for group, and later on it talks about a path. And that path is an SVG statement. And if you look at the detail of that that SVG, it's actually quite complicated and long, and it doesn't mean anything. So this is a standalone SVG that we're able to make because we're accessing it from the server.
I see.
Now,
that's amazing.
If we say SignPuddle.net/SVG/font / our formal SignWriting string, it looks a bit different on the inside. On the inside, we actually have groups, and each one is a text. And here, don't know how well you can see that. That right there is our plain 16 character. And since this is an SVG that uses the font, we can create this on the server, or we can create this on the client, and that's that SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library that will actually let you generate these SVG images on the client. And of course, you don't really want to see the code; you want to see the SignWriting.
Well, you know me. I mean, I'm the visual person who, that's what I'm used to. There we go. But the fact that there is code behind that, I think, is the fascinating story, because when I started, as everybody mentions, 1974. Of course, that's when I first began. But so much has happened since, with so many wonderful writers. and the majority of them have been totally visual people who just, write sign language as they feel it and see it. And they're not thinking in terms of code, right? I mean, that's not something that I ever would have dreamt. If somebody said to me in 1974 in Copenhagen, just wait, Valerie, in 2016 you'll be discussing code called Formal SignWriting, FSW, and it's ASCII, and it goes in a row, and it's going to be on computers, and I would have said, huh? So you have evolved us into this world of software, and I'm grateful to you and all the other software developers who have done that with us, because we're rather unique that way, in the sense that we're bringing a way to write and type sign language and to represent it not only by hand, but also by computer in quite a detailed and developed way. We're in Unicode now, thanks to everybody's help, and Steve is going to be taking it further now. So, Steve, this is beautiful. Very, very beautiful indeed. It looks like I could almost learn it. I think I could actually go up and start typing in words like light blue. I can do that. And some of those things, and actually do some of the character coloring and formatting, doing it that way rather than using your other software that makes it easy by just, you give us pull-down menus, for example, in SignPuddle, where we can just choose the colors, so there's a little box, and I can choose a box of color and choose the colors I want without having to actually put in the code. But now I can do that too, now that I've seen this presentation.
Right. Also, SignMaker. SignMaker does use the coloring string, but it also has other options. So let's take a quick look at SignMaker. I'm going to select the US dictionary. We'll wait for that to load. Should only take a second here. All right. Let's colorize the world. We'll just do that sign. I like that one.
It's a unique sign. It's here and here.
So let's, under More and SVG Images. Right here, we can actually use our styling string if we know them, is -CZX. My favorite.
There we go.
Really big.
Yeah. Oh, wow, look how fast. You were able to do it so fast with the code, weren't you? Very fast.
Yeah, once you know the styling strings, it's a little bit silly. But remember, SignWriter Studio, Jonathan Duncan, he asked me about this possibility of having a styling string, and I said, that's a bad idea because we're dealing with plain text. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought, that's really a great idea.
That's right. And thank you, Jonathan Duncan, for SignWriter Studio, which is another program. You can go to signwriterstudio.com to download it. Thank you. Yeah, this is great. See that? When we work together, we get all these ideas, and we sort of feed off each other, don't we? One thing equals to the next. And you were able to add this. So this is the styling string at the end. Okay. So you go -C. That
which
gives
is
you
just
color.
colorized. And so we have that colorized. We could add a padding of 10, that background of red.
That's pretty easy. Can you move your cursor off of it? It looks like you've got it. Oh, yeah, move the cursor so I can read it. So C is for colorize. P is for padding. 10 tells you how much the padding is. Okay.
Then we have G, and this is background.
Okay.
Like I said, I like that light blue a lot.
You bet. There we go. Wow. Huh.
And then, like I said, zoom extensible. Gets real big.
It gets really big, huh? So do you have like different zooming numbers to give you different zooming levels?
Yeah, you can do zoom. Well, it starts out by defaulting zoom 1, so we're not going to see any change. You can have zoom 1.9.
Look at that.
Zoom level 19.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna play with this when we're all done with this presentation. I never saw it from that perspective. I finally understand it. It isn't so hard after all. Look at that.
Right, and I remember on Facebook I saw several people from Brazil, and they had SignWriting on a T-shirt, and that SignWriting was colorized and had background color. And I don't know if they used these tools, but they totally could have used these tools to create those that pattern to write on this T-shirt. So it's got lots of possibilities. We get lots of functionality with not too much effort.
And on top of that, even if you didn't know the styling string, you could use those little boxes up above with the fields, right? You could go size 1 or 2 or whatever it is. You could go padding 10 right there in that field. Isn't that true?
Right.
So,
this actually uses the SignWriting 2010 JavaScript library. And that JavaScript library, you can send a formal SignWriting string, and you can send a whole bunch of variables. And that's what these, the size, the padding, the line, the fill, the background, colorize, those are all sent as variables, which is different than the styling string, and yet kind of similar.
Okay.
One last thing I want to show is you can color, no, let's dash dash 2 dashes, and I'm going to, do a dash dash DO1. So for symbol 1, I'm going to color it red. There we go. So symbol 1 right now is red.
Wow, look at that. Individual symbols. Yeah, that's good
right.
For teaching.
So we
that
can
would
have
be a great tool.
2, symbol 3, symbol 4.
Very nice.
So the styling string can also allow you to stylize the individual symbols. And I think I talked about the zoom level for individual symbols. So if we had, let's zoom symbol 1 to 4. So as you can see, it made that symbol big, but it had a problem with the coordinates. So later, this will actually be integrated more into the user interface. So you don't have to write a styling string. The user interface will allow you just to customize it, and you won't know that you're actually putting this on the back end. But for now, this is the route we're taking. So I'm going to move it up. So I'll do 500x 450.
And what does that do? Is that your coordinate?
Symbol, it's an adjustment coordinate, because after we zoom a symbol, it may not be positioned properly, or it may get in the way of other symbols. So we can actually zoom a symbol and then fine-tune position where it actually should go.
Totally amazing. I love it. I love it. So what you're saying is this can be in the background, but we can also do this with styling strings. And you had this all described, I think, on SignPuddle.net. Is that right?
SignPuddle.net is our new SignWriting server developer API. Normal people can go in there and look around.
Okay.
It's especially for developers, and offers some great tools, but there's also SignMaker, and SignPuddle.com has a lot of great information about
so imagine I want to do it, and then I forget, what the actual code was. You know what I mean? Let's say I wanted to do a C, but I didn't remember it was a C. How could I look up what I would do with strings? Where is it? Right here on SignPuddle.com?
There are 2 places you could go right now. One, if you see this icon right in the middle for slide share, you can go find the Beyond SignWriting Plain Text presentation.
Okay.
Or if you wanted the authoritative reference, that would actually be in the scroll down here, the SignPuddle Standard for SignWriting Text. That is a document that I republish every 6 months and post it with the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. And that actually has a whole section on the SignWriting styling string.
Okay, fine. So I can find it in those documents.
Section 4, styling string, styling the entire sign or styling individual symbols.
Okay,
and that also has
so
a lot of
other
great information.
Terrific. Congratulations on this. This is amazing. Really
great.
Yeah,
and we're getting better and faster and quicker. Very exciting times.
It really is, and it's almost like technology is running one step ahead of us all, at least for me. That's the way I feel. I think a lot of people feel that way. So many things, like with iPhones and just so much technology that's coming our way. But you are keeping SignWriting in the forefront of this fact. I think one of the most important points about Steve's work is that we have a Wikipedia now where we can actually write articles in written sign languages. And I know that we've talked about that a lot. For those of you who know us well, you've heard this so many times repeated, but for those who are new, who might be listening to this for the first time, there wasn't a way to do this before, but especially since SignWriting is oftentimes, as it is right here, written in vertical columns, and our Wikipedias are written in vertical columns because those deaf people whom I worked with requested that. They felt that writing vertically felt good for the body while you're signing. It felt natural to sign languages to do that. Well, writing any language in vertical columns on the web was not something that was standard, and so Steve and others have had to really work hard to make the Wikipedias function, and we're having a presentation tomorrow. It's a presentation, this is presentation 61, but tomorrow we're having presentation 64. It's the last presentation of the SignWriting Symposium 2016, and I hope you'll see it because it is in American Sign Language, because our deaf staff, we have Adam Frost and Jason Nesmith and Holly Scher are going to be discussing how they have written their Wikipedia articles in American Sign Language. But behind all of their work, Steve's work of developing the software to make it possible, as you can see here, has been the reason we can do it at all. So all of the literature that we're writing on the web right now is possible because of this, of what we're looking at right now. So thank you, Steve, for SignPuddle.com, SignPuddle.net, and SignPuddle.org. We are really very blessed. Thank you. Do you want to say something more? What more would you like to share?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share that I keep talking about formal SignWriting, which is nothing more than my computer encoding of what Valerie said SignWriting was, because she said this is how it works, and I believed her.
Thank you. I'm lucky you did. All right, we are a good team because we've worked together for so many years to make this all happen. And I'm not a programmer, everybody. If you think I understand code, I do not. So Steve and I are not doubling up on work exactly. We're both having totally separate worlds. I'm in this visual world of writing sign languages and teaching people and telling people about it. And Steve has been developing the code that's backing it up on the internet. Yes, go ahead about formal SignWriting. What would you like to say more?
Yeah, since about 2007, I started serious encoding work, and finally put the last piece together in January of 2012. And since then, I've been able to maintain compatibility. So, like I said, we have 4.5 years of standards that are stable. And every improvement that we're adding is always a compatible improvement. We're not breaking anything that we've already done. We're just adding to it. And since 2012, we've been stable, and it's really exciting because more people are using the standard all the time. And when other people use the standard, we can share our data, we can write together, we can share our tools, and the future is going to be very exciting.
Very bright. And for those who are not in software development, it's hard to understand why a standard for source code and for development would matter, but it does, because you have to have a way that's standardized and stable, or otherwise people can't develop the technologies to work with it. Isn't that true? You need the standard to be able to function with the world as the technology keeps evolving. So we're grateful for the SignReady Standards. Steve, thank you for that. Thank you. And formal SignWriting is that standard, so it's the ASCII that we're looking at right there, with the styling code at the end, which I understand. Yay! I'm going to start using it. All right. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. And tomorrow, Steve is presenting one last time here at the symposium. He's had 3 presentations in all after tomorrow's. So the first presentation tomorrow, which is July 21st, will be Steve. It's presentation 62, I guess. And Steve, what are you going to be presenting tomorrow?
Tomorrow is going to be SignPuddle 3 front and back, and that is where I'll be showing off some stuff on SignPuddle.org and for the writers, and also some stuff on SignPuddle.net, which is the developer API, because I'm trying to get these tools so that developers can get the maximum amount of maximum amount of benefit with minimum amount of
effort. Yeah. Well, you know, SignPuddle right now is this sort of the standard of software that we're all using to compose not only dictionaries but also literature. So SignPuddle Online, which is at signpuddle.org, is fabulous. It's used all over the world. Right now we're using version 2.0, but there is a SignPuddle 3 in the making, and it's coming. So that's what Steve is going to be sharing tomorrow. I'm sure you're going to all want to see that. Then the next presentation, presentation 63, is from Peru. We are going to be really blessed with a new project from Peru, from Lima, a dictionary, a Peruvian sign language that will be using SignWriting. And then the last presentation is, as I said, the Wikipedias in sign languages, in written sign languages. And it will be in American Sign Language with interpreting by Andrew Olson from the Coda Brothers into English. So it is English ASL. Well, thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Bye-bye.